China is sanctioning a former senator from the Philippines. The CCP might sell its fighter jets to the Ayatollah, and the Chinese countryside is flooding again. That and more on this week's China News Headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. And this episode is sponsored by Surfshark. Whenever you go online, you really should be using a VPN like Surfshark to cover your tracks and protect your identity. I'll tell you more in a little bit. Luckin Coffee, often touted as China's answer to Starbucks, has launched its first stores in the competitive U.S. market, specifically in New York City, the Black Coffee Book of Communism. I'm confused, why NYC? Are they showing communist solidarity with the maybe soon-to-be mayor Zoran Mamdani? Or is this just another of China's terrible financial decisions made at the worst possible time? ¿Por qué no los dos? Some say that the company, founded in 2017, could challenge Starbucks' power in the U.S. market. Why? Well, for one, it's slightly cheaper, with the 16-ounce Americano at Luckin costing $4.45 compared to Starbucks' $4.95. For another, it succeeded in beating Starbucks in the Chinese market, becoming the country's largest coffee chain in 2023. And finally, it's got a gimmick. Cashier-free coffee. Just download the app, give all your data to the CCP, order ahead, pick up your coffee, and go. Minimal social interaction needed. Although that might be a bit of a problem in New York City, where cashless businesses are prohibited. But anyway, this is an inspiring comeback story. Why, it was just a few years ago, Luckin Coffee was forced to pay $180 million in fraud for lying to American investors. If at first you don't succeed, it doesn't matter, because the capitalist will sell the communists the rope they'll use to hang them. Heavy floods in China have killed at least 9 people and displaced tens of thousands. These kinds of storms hit China every summer. But this year's images on social media have been particularly dramatic. I'd say you'd think China would have learned how to deal with this by now, but learning from past historical mistakes isn't really communism's defining characteristic. The central and southern Chinese areas of Hubei, Henan, and Guizhou were the worst hit, with rivers topping over dikes and pouring into city streets, shopping malls, and housing complexes. 8 other people were listed as missing, and even more rainfall is in the forecast. This seems to be the cost of China's rapid industrialization. Poor infrastructure and corruption have made the situation worse. Misused flood relief is also a problem. China has sanctioned a former Philippine senator over maritime claims. Francis Tolentino, who lost his bid for a second term during midterm elections, canvassed heavily on bringing in laws to better define the country's sea lanes and maritime zone, which of course was a big no-no for China, since they claim pretty much all of the South China Sea as its own, often violently, despite the fact that it's illegal by international law. China has barred Tolentino from entering the mainland, Macau, and Hong Kong. He acknowledged the sanctions and called them a badge of honor. I like this guy. And after the break, is Iran about to buy Chinese jet fighters? Welcome back. On his first foreign trip since the Israel conflict, Iran's defense minister thanked China for its support, which is interesting since the only support China has given Iran in these trying times, as far as we know, was verbal condemnation of the U.S. and Israel. The CCP even joined the U.S. in calling for the Strait of Hormuz to remain open, contradicting the Islamic Republic's threats to close it during wartime. So is this just brown-nosing? Well, yes, but it's also deeper than that. I apologize for the mental image caused by me using the word deeper right after brown-nosing. The defense minister was one of 9 that Chinese state-run media says attended a gathering of the SCO, or Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which both China and Russia lead. China and Russia still badly want to create an alternative world order not led by the West or dominated by the US, and Iran, for its own reasons, agrees. So really they have no choice but to put on the charade, and one reason they want to make China happy is because Iran is reportedly set to buy Chinese jets. According to a report in the Moscow Times and another in the RBC Ukraine, Iran has intensified negotiations with China to acquire the Chengdu J-10C, also known as the Vigorous Dragon, which is used by both Pakistan and China mainly for aerial combat. I can't tell if Vigorous Dragon is a better name for a fighter jet or a Chinese knockoff of Viagra. But it doesn't just dogfight, it can also perform some strike missions. Apparently, Iran aims to modernize its air force as soon as possible, and Chinese jets are currently seen as an affordable and cost-effective alternative to the Russian Su-35s, because nothing says no limits partnership like undercutting your best buddy. China's badly performing economy sure could use the cash from such a sale, and Iran's military, which has been severely battered by Israeli airstrikes, was mainly full of outdated, old equipment that can't compete with Israeli and Western technology. But Iran has been eyeing these jets for a while, and previous deals have fallen through for a variety of reasons, so we'll have to see what actually happens. So hey, stop me if you've heard some version of this almost every week for the past, ever since I've been on YouTube. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, 2 Chinese nationals have been caught spying on U.S. Navy personnel and bases. Yuan-Su Chen, who resides in Happy Valley, Oregon, and Li Renlai, who traveled to Houston on a tourist visa in April 2025. Both men faced charges for working for China's Ministry of State Security, or MSS, gathering intel about service members and bases, attempting to recruit Navy personnel to work on behalf of the MSS, and working with others in America to facilitate a dead drop payment of at least $10,000. Just $10,000? I don't know if this shows how cash-strapped the CCP is, or how badly these guys need to learn to negotiate. Maybe there'll be a copy of Art of the Deal in the jail library. Because if convicted, both men could be fined $250,000 and face up to a decade behind bars. The FBI got some help on this case from the NCIS, the Naval Criminal Investigative Service, for those of you who don't watch the TV that's always playing in the background at your parents' house. FBI Director Kash Patel told Fox News that we disrupted those efforts and sent a clear message. The United States will not tolerate espionage on American soil. Our counterintelligence operations remain focused, vigilant, and relentless. That's right, CCP spies. Kash is keeping his eyes on you. His gigantic, unblinking, all-seeing eyes. And longtime viewers of China Uncensored know that I've spent time with lots of unsavory people, like Hong Kong activist / troublemaker Joshua Wong, who's now in jail, and Tibetan parliament member Namgyal Dolkar, who travels the world pissing off the CCP by talking about Tibet. But these are 2 dangerous anti-CCP freedom fighters I know have a special place in your heart. Daniel Sudani and Celsus Talafilu from the Solomon Islands. They stood nearly alone among government officials in that country trying to block the CCP from turning it into a vassal state. They kept Malaita province CCP free for as long as they could, and the corrupt prime minister hated them for it. In 2023, they tried to come to the United States to tell the U.S. Congress about the extreme danger the CCP poses to their country and to security in the Pacific. The Secretary of State didn't want them to come. No one wanted to help except you, my amazing 50-cent army. You helped raise more than $27,000 to bring them to D.C. for a month. And they did incredible things. They met with U.S. elected officials. They testified before Congress. They influenced think tanks and got tons of media coverage. The CCP was so mad at them. And me. Well, Sudani and Talafilu courageously returned to the Solomon Islands, and for a while, the notoriety you gave them kept them safe. But the corrupt Solomon Islands government now sees that world media attention on them is fading, so they've put them on trial. The charges are for so-called unlawful assembly, where Solomon Islands citizens protested how their federal government was letting the CCP take over their country. The short of it is, these charges against them are completely trumped up. The Solomon Islands government has already learned a lot from the CCP, including how to use the courts to go after their political enemies. The trial has started and could last anywhere from 2 days to a few weeks. If the kangaroo courts get their way, they could face 2 years in jail. So what can you do? Leave a Solomon Island flag emoji in the comments below to show that people are paying attention to this issue and to support those in the Solomon Islands still fighting against the CCP. You can copy it from the YouTube description and then share this episode with everyone you know, especially if you know any reporters. because if there's anything corrupt politicians fear, it's people shedding light on the truth. And did you know that every time you go online, everything you do is potentially compromised? And that's why the people at Surfshark created a VPN that keeps your internet activity private and secure. If you're not taking active steps to protect yourself, everything you do is being tracked and logged by the websites you visit, your internet service provider, and often by your own government. Using a VPN makes you harder to track. Surfshark has servers you can connect to in over 100 countries, more than any other VPN. That includes a server in the British Virgin Islands where the law allows companies to not log user data. So stay safe and check out Surfshark. With just one Surfshark account, you can connect as many devices as you want. It also comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Go to surfshark.com/uncensored and use the code UNCENSORED to get up to 4 months extra. The link is in the description below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.